Action.
Welcome to Off Camera, the UC Film Society radio show all about movies. I'm Ollie.
I'm Jake Muad'Dib Lacey.
Okay, all right. And I'm Cam. Jesus.
And we'll be your directors for this episode.
You guys should have been prepared for that. Like,
This week on Off Camera, we're doing a special episode.
You pull my head out of it now. I can't.
I'm sorry.
Can
I
we
had
just do the
to.
intro again?
Yeah, we're going
No. Keep going. Doesn't matter. Keep going.
Okay.
We're on a roll. We're on a roll.
We'll be talking about our recent watches. Jake's is obvious. And then be doing a couple of new segments, which you'll find out about shortly. Sorry for that train wreck.
Oh my
Jake threw us
goodness.
off.
I was just saying my name, guys. Come on.
Don't know what you're
Can I see
talking
birth certificate?
You can see it later.
Oh.
about. What?
Oh.
I don't have it
All
already.
right. All right. Well, recent watching, because we recorded literally 3 days ago.
Friday, and it's now Monday.
Yeah. So probably not much.
No, I have watched a bit.
Apart from this other movie that we'll talk about later, but I'm not going to mention.
I haven't watched any movies.
Oh, okay. Well, I watched the whole of the Ocean franchise, so you know.
Yeah, and how was it?
It was okay.
It was okay.
I think 13 was the better one.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's probably my least favorite one.
Oh,
I don't count 8.
I've only seen 11 and 8, so I can't speak to that.
fair.
Interesting. I love 12. 12 is so messy.
12 is all over the
It's
place,
so
but
fun.
I'm there for it.
And 11 is probably the best, you know.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
did
11 is the best.
I
would
reviewed
know.
them all on Letterboxd. What was the one I did for 8? I don't know. Google it, but
It was the Pedro Pascal.
oh
This movie
yeah,
could
yeah,
be-
yeah. It was from his Wonder Woman quote of like, life is good, but it can be better. But then I changed it to like, this movie is good, but it can be better. Pedro Pascal paraphrased.
Nice.
Yeah, they're okay.
Jake doesn't get to talk about what he's
Jake
watched
doesn't get
lately.
to talk about what he watched.
We're going to be talking about it.
No, we're not
Oh,
actually.
no, we
We're
don't
doing a
have
deep
any-
dive
entire
on Kung Fu
episode.
Panda 2.
I can't wait.
Why?
Because 3's coming out. We need to be prepared.
3 is
coming
coming out?
4. I haven't seen 3 actually.
What
So
is with
I'm
you
gonna
guys?
need to watch
I'm going to rewatch
Yeah,
that
good,
trilogy.
Good. Anyway, I finished watching Jujutsu Kaisen and no one cares about that, so that's fine.
No,
That's
let's
it.
talk about it.
Yeah,
We'll
I
just nod
finished it.
along, but
I
like,
finished it. It won the Best Anime of the Year award. Season 2
Oh,
won
wow.
the award for Best Anime of the Year in 2020. Well, I think the awards were
from
this
who?
year, but
What-
Crunchyroll.
Okay, all right.
Official.
Not from Ollie.
No. No, the official Crunchyroll Best Anime of the Year award. And Demon Slayer Season 3, which I watched just a while ago, won Best Animation.
Wow.
Sick.
Because it looks sick.
Wow.
But yeah, I finished Jujutsu Kaisen and started reading the manga.
No.
That's all I've watched
Yeah.
Awesome.
Not much to
in the
talk about.
past 3 days.
I know that's a lot in the last 3 days.
I know.
Quite extensive. I think that'll fill up the episode for us.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you for coming out.
Yeah, it's a 4-minute long episode. That's all we need, right?
Yeah.
Hit
Well,
stop. Okay, thanks for joining us.
see ya.
Guys, this has gone on
Jake is-
far too long.
Jake is so depressed.
Okay, so
Jake's gonna tell us a bit about what.
Well, the
guys,
all right,
why
so
are
the-
we
the-
here?
The main reason for this is a June Part 2 special episode. We all went and watched it yesterday, but once we finished the movie, Ollie and I said we're not going to talk about it until we did the recording, and it annoyed the hell out of Jake. He was so angry sitting in the back of the car.
There's nothing more frustrating than seeing a movie, especially a movie like this one, that it's so much to talk about and not talking about it immediately afterwards. I understand why we did it. It'll make for this episode to be one of my favorites that we do because I cannot wait to talk about this movie.
It
but
wasn't that. We just wanted to annoy you.
that too.
Yeah, we normally would, except it was
Yeah.
11 p.m.
It was also very funny.
Yeah.
and it was funny to
Yeah.
piss you off.
I understand.
He's not smiling. He's
Yeah.
fuming. There's fire
He
in his
understands,
eyes.
but he's angry.
Yes.
Yeah,
Indeed.
Okay, well, Jake, give us
Give us an
the overview. Yeah, so the director, that sort of stuff.
Dune 2 is the new film by Denis Villeneuve, who directed 2021's Dune. This movie was supposed to come out in November last year, got delayed, and now it's finally here. Its opening weekend was this past weekend. We went and saw it last night. I saw it the previous night on Friday. I cannot wait to see this on IMAX. It's going to be so awesome. I encourage you, everybody, get the biggest screen you can and go see it because this film is unbelievable. The cinematic experience this film provides is just amazing.
Or
It's
1, 2, 3 movies.
Yeah, maybe. It's Denis putting all the pieces together from the first Dune book because he split it into 2. But it's not like a conclusion. There's definitely going to be another, hopefully, if it gets greenlit, which I don't see how it won't because the opening weekend this movie has had is unbelievable. Same cast as last time with you get to see more of people like Javier Bardem, Zendaya, and then we also get new people like Austin Butler, Florence Pugh, and even people get teased that'll be in future movies, big people that we'll talk about later. And yeah, I mean, it's about Paul's journey with the Fremen. At the end of the first movie, we see him ingratiate himself with Bardem and Zendaya and the Fremen, and we really get to see the outcome of that in this film, while also seeing more of the Harkonnens, and we really get a conclusion to Paul's arc that is so well set up in the first film, while also seeing him have his relationships with people like Chani, people like Stilgar evolve, and it's just an amazing kind of conclusion to an arc while also being a setup. It's very impressive, and I absolutely loved it.
I think it made somewhere in the area of 35 million USD on its opening weekend.
Yeah.
Just in the US.
Yeah. The hype for this movie was real, especially when it's getting pushed back. All the same people as last time, Hans Zimmer, the God Greg Fraser. It's the same team just doing God's work once again.
That's his official name. The God, Greg Fraser.
Pretty much. I mean, I haven't seen anything he shot that looks bad, so
fair enough.
I'm a big fan of his work.
Imagine his home family videos. My goodness.
His kids just running around and it's like,
Yeah.
No, that's Zimmers.
I know.
Zimmers.
Yeah, I had been looking forward to this movie for so long, and it really, really delivered, and I'm so excited that it is so good, and I'm going to be seeing it so many times and talking about it so much. It's going to be such a beast, but I'm really dying to know what you guys thought about this film.
Jake's already booked tickets to see this movie 17 more times.
Yeah, essentially.
Pretty much, honestly,
because this cinematic experience is just
he's seeing it twice in IMAX this week.
So Ollie, what we're doing is we're saying it was good and leaving it at that. We're not going to deep dive into it. I don't know, actually.
Pretty bad, right?
Okay, we're going to start out with pick your moment because we're just going to jump straight
You guys just tell me your thoughts on the film first, please.
Nah.
Actually, Ollie, I'm sorry, I'm with Jake there.
Okay,
pick your moment is last in the run sheet.
I think it's more interesting to go first, but
I just want
I'm
your guys'
outvoted,
raw
so-
reactions to the film.
Yeah, it was.
You didn't just look at us yesterday in the cinema and go, okay.
It's so frustrating. We're on the time. This is the time to give me them.
Oh my goodness. Okay, fine. Let's start with pick your moment, and then we'll go straight into it.
Okay.
Jake, what was your moment? Oh wait, no, you've.
No,
you've
I need
requested
to go
to
last. He's going
Okay,
last.
you
He's
can't
going
even
last.
give me
What
that.
was
your moment?
My moment, definitely, even though we saw it in the preview for Dune 2 when we went and watched the first one, it was when he was running to catch the sandworm for the first time and is sliding down the sand dune and then hooks onto something, and you don't know what it is, but there's so much awe around it. The soundtrack, the soundscape is just perfect. I feel like it feels like you're in the middle of an earthquake, like in a 6-story deep car park. Everything's shaking, everything's loud, everything's rumbling, and yeah, just
That moment is one
I
of
love
the
it.
moments that I'll remember forever in a movie. You know what I mean? I think that might be the iconic scene that gets remembered the most from the movie, but I don't know. We'll have to see.
I mean, no wonder they chose
Yeah.
a abridged version of that to show as the preview, because it's by no means the most crazy moment in the movie. It's not really spoiling anything,
Yeah.
but it's
still
definitely
so
epic
good.
and shows off exactly what this movie is all about,
Mhm.
which is the spectacle and the intense CGI and all of that. it's all showcased in that one moment.
Mm-hmm.
That is actually not even on my list of honorable mentions.
What?
Not because it's bad, but just
Fair.
there are
There's
so many moments in this movie, and I'm like, that's because I'd already seen it in the preview. I liked because the actual scene is longer than we saw in the preview. And I liked the extended version better than the shortened version, unsurprisingly. But it was already in my mind. But I do have, I'm going to say I've got 3 honorable mentions before I say my actual one. So the opening scene where all of the, like they're still in the desert and the Fremen have to hide, and Paul and Lady Jessica go and hide under this like rock shelf, and then the Harkonnen soldiers come in, and there's this shot of them all like jetpacking up the side of this
that was so cool.
this mesa, and it's sick. It's awesome. I loved the color. It's like really deep orange.
Looks so good.
And then they like start getting shot, and they essentially start raining down on Paul and Lady Jessica, and it's sick.
The sound they make when they
There's
hit
this
is
awful
crazy.
thump.
Just the,
Yeah,
but it's
awful.
in the
amazing,
sand,
and
but
it's-
it's also like a mix of. If you listen to it really carefully, it was like cracking bones as well. It's,
and it's a little bit wet because the bodies. Yeah, it was a banger opening.
Just an amazing way to open a movie.
Then my next honorable mention is the whole sequence on Gady Prime when Austin Butler's character Fade Rother is introduced, and the fight scene in the stadium they've got, the Coliseum. It's just all so intense. And then he goes up and he threatens his uncle because one of the fighters wasn't drugged to make them an easy kill. And I loved, for one, how it showed off how badass the Atreides fighters are.
Yeah.
Even
this
him,
is
because he
just-
was the
this is
doctor,
just-
wasn't
No, that was
No?
just some stock
No, that
standard.
wasn't the doctor.
Oh no!
It was just some stock standard Atreides fighter.
But he was so
he
good.
was nearly as good as Fade Rother, the person who's meant to be the best Harkonnen fighter,
Mm-hmm.
which was crazy and awesome. And they really made a big spectacle of it. And it was in black and white, but the way it was done in black and white is so
Genius.
cool because it's like the actual scene isn't in black and white. It's not like they've changed the color scape of the thing. It's just that everything there is black and white.
The sun is
and
black.
and the sun is black.
I have so
which
many
casts
words
it in
about this.
grayscale.
Do you know how he shot this? Infrared lens.
Wow.
Yes.
That's so cool.
Yes, it's freaking.
But yeah,
awesome.
I love how it looks because I was a little bit skeptical seeing these black and white
I agree.
like shots before seeing the movie. Not because they didn't look good; they looked really cool. But I was like, how is he gonna
Pull it
narratively
off. Yeah.
shift between such saturated color and black and white? Because we've seen Gady Prime before in the first movie, and it was in color.
Mm-hmm.
It was just muted.
Mm-hmm.
But I like how as soon as they walked into the sunlight, that's when the color changed. And the Baron's like black robe goes to silver,
Yeah.
and it shows like when he's just in his black robe, he kind of looks like just some guy.
Yeah.
Like he has a presence, but what he's wearing doesn't
Mhm.
look anything special.
Mm-hmm.
But in that light, it looked silver and it was shining, and he looked like a ruler.
Yeah.
And that was cool.
And
I
the
really liked
fireworks
that.
are like ink blots. It's the coolest. I've never seen anything like
yeah,
that before.
Cam's
in a
going
movie.
to talk extensively.
I
Yeah,
have
yeah,
so
we'll get
many
into that.
things about just that scene
Yeah.
specifically.
And then my third honorable mention, before I say my actual pick your moment, was in the final battle when the 3 sandworms just rise up
Yeah.
out of the sand.
Yeah.
Not anything after, like, because they drop down. And I did notice that as they drop down, they really like thump down.
Mm-hmm.
And that almost took me out of it for a moment. I was like, hang on a second. But the moment they rise up and the score is just going crazy, and
Yeah.
it was such a powerful moment to show off how the Fremen really are the rulers of Arrakis, even though it's currently under the control of the Harkonnens.
When I first saw that shot in the trailer of the 3 sandworms, that's it. I was like, I need that scene in my life now, and
Mhm.
it didn't disappoint.
But you had to wait 2 hours and 30 minutes for it to get there. But my actual moment, what I think is the most narratively powerful scene in the whole movie, is when Paul makes his speech.
Damn it!
That's Jake's moment.
You shouldn't have gone last. Sorry, that's your bad.
Anyway,
is when Paul makes his speech in
this is the scene.
in the caverns.
This is the scene.
Yeah.
It's where he truly accepts his role as the Lisan al-Gaib and becomes essentially the leader of the Fremen in this moment. Before that, he was sort of like on the fence. He like didn't want the destiny, but he started doing things that gave him that sort of power and control.
He flipped so quickly though, from like.
But it was after he drank. We'll talk about it when we get to the story.
That's a whole story.
But yeah, I just think narratively, it's like right in this moment. It's like if all three movies, when they make a third one, are put together, this is the start of Act 3. Act 3, like it's sort of a little bit into Act 3 in this movie, but in the whole trilogy, it begins Act 3. Act 3 doesn't start like at the start of the next movie. I think Act 3 starts
Yes,
there.
I agree. Yeah. I've thought about this scene so much since it's the scene I'll remember most from it. It's the scene where I felt the most, because you're right. It's like, it's epic, but not in like an epic because you're seeing Sandworm's way. It's epic because of the narrative and the performance. We'll talk about acting, but Chalamet in that scene is unbelievable, and I've never seen him do anything like that before. And yeah, it's an amazing. And we've talked about it a little bit before we recorded, but the moment where he name drops Dune, I felt the shivers go down my spine when I first saw that, because it was a true, like, it's Hollywood, yeah, but it was like true, like, this is the story, this is it moment for me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Jake, what's
your
pick?
I was gonna choose that Dune moment. I won't talk. No. You talked about the scene. We talked about it. I want to go with something.
And we
different.
will talk about it more.
Yeah,
later.
It gives me an opportunity to talk about another scene, which is right before the sandworm scene. It's the scene right before, and the 1-2 punch of these scenes coming back to back is amazing. But it's the first raid on the harvesters, where Chani has the rocket launcher and she's trying to blow it up, and Paul draws them out. And it's right after she hits the harvester and finally blows it up, and she runs with the rocket launcher over to Paul, and there's a shot of her running, and as she's running, the stuff falls and explodes in the background.
That was in the trailer.
Yeah, and it's an amazing moment, an amazing conclusion to such a visceral sequence, and then also brings them together, and their story is at the heart of the story. I also will want to mention an honorable mention for the scene where they kiss for the first time. The love theme is so good, and
Jake was having different thoughts while watching this movie to the rest of us.
No, I mean it's a purely romantic movie. I really think so.
Purely? You think
Purely.
it's
That's
only
they
a
love.
I mean, like,
that's why they were
at
love tapping each other with swords.
I mean, at its heart,
Love tap.
Yeah.
I think at its heart, the film is about them too.
Well, yes, 100%.
And so, I think this film is really focused on that, and I think that moment, especially watching it again, knowing what happens, hurts, and it makes an impact on me even more so. And the score is so great, and the camera's swirling around them as the music crescendos. It's just a really great moment in my opinion, and the acting is great between them.
Yeah, it's such an intense story. When the movie ended, I was just sitting there, and you hopped up like onto the barrier in front of us, and you were like, "So what do you think?" And I was sitting there trying not to cry just from like it being so intense.
Jesus.
And so I was like in my head, "Shut up, Jake! Stop
Should've
talking
said
to
that.
me." No. But it was. This is the first movie that I finished the movie and just had to sit there, like, and I wasn't having any thoughts. Like I was just sitting there, like, whoa.
Yeah, I did the exact same thing. I was just in my seat, just
like normally I'll
credits kind of going past, but also not really. But
my
also
eyes were just blurry. I was
reliving the past 2.5 hours. Like, what?
It makes me happy.
Like I don't. Like I've had movies before where I finished it and it's had a major impact, and I've been like, whoa, that's affected me. But it's never just been like, it's never floored me so much that I've had to just sit there and not even think.
Yeah.
So it's powerful.
Yeah.
So why don't we jump in on that note to actually breaking down this movie and see why it's so powerful to us.
Yep. So like we do with all our other breakdowns, we've got 5 categories. Acting, audio, which is, well, audio is split into 2 different categories, subcategories, sound and sound design and score. Then we have cinematography, VFX, and story. So let's start with acting. Jake?
Perfect. Everyone in this film is so perfect, and I love everybody in this film and seeing more of people we didn't get to see. And there's some people I wish we got to see more of, but like just like the first one, I know we'll see more of them, so I'm not like too worried about that. Like for example, I feel the same way about Florence Pugh in this movie that I did about Zendaya in the first movie. It's like she's good, but I want to see more of her.
Yeah.
We got to see more of Zendaya in this
Like
one.
she didn't really do that much. All she did was have these conversations, and she was pretty intense in the conversations. But that's all she got to do.
But by the ending, of course, we're going to see more of her.
Yeah, she's going to be very important in the next movie.
Yeah.
Well, Ollie's already read all the books. So.
No, I haven't, but I probably will have by the time the next movie comes out. I think there were 4 standout actors. I think everyone acted like so hard, acted their butts off.
Mm-hmm.
But there are 4 standout actors: Timmy,
Yes,
Timmy,
Zendaya.
She wouldn't be in my 4, but
I wouldn't put her in my top 4
for reasons I will talk about
yeah,
later.
She's
She'd
really,
be,
really
she'd
good.
be
When
in
we
my
get to
top 5,
story.
but
Yes.
not top 4. I don't think.
Okay, when we get to story, I'll tell you why.
Okay.
But yeah, Timmy, Zendaya, Rebecca Ferguson,
Hell yes.
and Austin Butler.
You don't have Bardem.
See, I'd
love-
put him in instead of
Yeah.
Zendaya.
Yeah,
I
we have
love-
the same top 4.
I absolutely love Javier Bardem and Stilgar's character.
Yeah.
I don't think his acting, like his character just sort of does the same thing the whole time. And he's so fun and he's very important to the story, and I absolutely loved watching him. But I don't think he was acting better than Zendaya was necessarily. I don't think he was given as much nuance, and I don't think that's a
fair.
problem.
Yeah.
I think it was just like the way his character was didn't need as much nuance because from the start he's just a one-track mind, and that's fine. That's how his character's written. I just think Zendaya was working, like had so much to work into her performance, and I think she did that fantastically.
She handles a really tough role and really crushes
Yeah.
it.
I think like he would be 5.
Yeah.
He would be my number
Yeah.
5. I was thinking about that. It's just those 4 stood out to me over everyone else.
I think what I love about the performance, and this might be a story thing, more so, but like you're right, he's very one track. He does the same thing throughout the movie, but I love how it's flipped from the first act to the third. In the first act, it's very comedic, like his belief in the Muad'Dib, and in the third act, it's so tragic and it's so scary, and I feel so bad for him.
But I think
he's amazing at doing both.
I agree, and I love that. I still don't think that's necessarily like I feel like I'm at risk of sounding like I don't think Javier Bardem acted well. I think he was fantastic. I just think the story served half of his purpose, and he just did the other half. Whereas Zendaya, it was like she carried her story.
Yeah, Zendaya's truly phenomenal in that movie, especially in the third act. She's just doing so much with facial expressions, just looking at Paul, and that last shot of her has been ingrained in my mind for a while.
Yeah, she is a very important character. I feel like we should have a separate category for character as like a subcategory of story.
Okay.
Not with every breakdown we do, but specifically for Dune 2 because it's coming from a book. There is so much to talk about, and I will be talking about the changes between the book and the movie. Yeah. And yeah, it's very interesting.
I just want to shout out Chalamet because I'm a fan of Chalamet. I've always have been. I really like him in the first one, but this is easily the best I've ever seen him.
Yeah, this is his best. This is his best.
I was stunned by how good he was, and I've never seen him so commanding. And that his turn in the third act, everything after he drinks the water of life, it's like some of the best stuff I've seen in a while. Like that speech to the Fremen that we talked about, like that. Not many actors can do that, you know. And the way he does it, switching between the Fremen and the English, and you know, it's just an amazing performance. And it was the first time I've ever truly been wowed by him. So I want to congratulate him.
Yeah.
I will say about Chalamet, I wish I hadn't watched Wonka. Because all I could hear when he was giving these speeches,
Yeah.
all I could hear was bloody Willy Wonka in the background going, chocolate. You will love chocolate too. Here, you should try some chocolate. But that's all I could hear from his voice, and it was really annoying.
That's distracting.
Yeah,
so annoying. Because his
he
performance
stood out.
was incredible. The best I've ever seen from him.
Yeah.
But I'm just angry at myself now.
That is funny. It is so interesting how much outside influences can impact a viewing of a movie. Because I was sitting there thinking, like, all sorts of different things. I was like, oh, this moment feels super intense. I wonder how it would play out in this different format. And I was going, I was watching it going, what's my pick your moment for the podcast? So there were things impacting how I was viewing the movie. And it's really interesting that Wonka was what impacted it for you. But yeah.
I don't know. It was more of an annoyance than an impact, because I'd watch him do this awesome performance and then go,
yeah, true. Yeah.
Special shout out though to Stellan Skarsgård and Charlotte Rampling.
Oh, they're so good. Yeah.
Even though they're not in the top 5 for me, still so good.
Yeah.
Stellan as the Baron, like, I hate the Baron as a character, but
he crushes it.
that's only because of his performance.
Yeah.
It's so good.
He's always so memorable.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh.
And the people he gets to act alongside in this movie too, like he always does well with Dave Bautista and Austin Butler, who we need to talk about. I mean, how many scenes is he in to make such a big impact? He's like in 3 scenes?
5.
Wow.
Which is
maybe 6.
Yeah.
He's
Like
in
if you all of the
not
Gady
many.
Prime sequence, I was counting as 1.
Yes, I would agree.
So that, then he's in the scene in the control room and in Arakeen / when they destroy the Siege Tableau.
and then they go in.
So
and,
that's 1 as well.
okay.
Then there's the final scene.
Yeah.
There's the scene when the Emperor comes down and he's like, "What are they doing? I've got spice
Yeah.
production under control." So that's 4. And then there's 1
Have
more.
you said
in there.
Leia Seydoux?
That is
That's
part
the
of the
Gady
Gady
Prime.
Prime.
Yeah.
Then there's the one with the Emperor at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Or I guess, like when Paul comes in and takes them prisoner, that is a separate scene to the very end fight scene.
Sure.
Yeah.
They're there might be another one,
But yeah,
but it's like 5 or 6.
Not
It's
a
not
lot.
a lot.
out of a big movie, and he's so memorable, and his voice
He
is
was-
great. He's so physically imposing.
He was the most talked about other actor by his fellow cast members.
It must have been so
because
fun
of
to
his
be on set
performance.
watching him do that, and then seeing him.
Is he
after.
method or
He didn't method act this. He wasn't off
Thank
killing people.
God?
That would have been interesting.
But
Method actors fade
I
rapid.
love the way he matched his voice to Stellan Skarsgård's
Yeah.
performance of the Baron. Like
Because he's
Dave Bautista just
niece.
sort of spoke
Niece.
like Dave Bautista.
niece.
Yeah.
But Austin Butler, if he'd just spoken normally, it wouldn't have been right.
Uh-huh.
No.
And if he'd spoken in his Elvis voice, I would have punched the screen.
Yeah, that would have been so bad.
but he spoke. Can you imagine the exact same thing? But it's
I gotta
Elvis.
kill some
Mama.
people. Mama.
But no,
Mama.
he took on the sort of scratchy,
Yeah.
deep
Yeah.
tone of Stellan Skarsgård, but it had its own twist on it. But because it was coming from him, but he matched that tone, and it just sounded so cool.
He crushes it. I also love Josh Brolin as Gurney Halleck, and seeing him again is so fun.
I
He's
was
kind of
so
like
nervous about his character.
yeah, he's kind of like the same as Bardem. He's kind of like doing only one thing, but I don't know. Those two characters for me add so much.
I think they add so much story wise,
Yes.
and I think he played his role really well.
Yeah.
It's just like I said, I don't think
Yes.
him and Javier,
Yeah.
like I don't think they are the top 4. It'll be like 5 and 6, or they are the part of the principal cast, so they are obviously very capable, very impressive performances, doing an extremely good job. But I just think the others really stand out to me.
There's one Brolin moment I really do love though, and it's in the speech, and it's when he puts on his dad's ring. Paul puts on his dad's ring and shows
And he
it, and
just
then it cuts to
smiles.
Brolin's face, very extreme close up.
Yeah,
His smile, that
I love that
moment always
moment
gets me.
I thought he was gonna throw away the ring, and be like,
That would have
this is who I am, this is who I was, and then because of the major like moment where they realize where he realizes he's a Harkonnen, I thought he was going to be like, but this is not who I need to be anymore, or something like that. Get rid of it, and then I am the Fremen leader and the Muad'Dib, and I am also the like to be emperor. Yeah, but no, I'm super happy that he kept it on.
Opinions on Walken.
I was just about to ask the same question.
Opinions on Walken, because I'd say I'm disappointed, honestly.
I'm a little disappointed.
I just think the emperor didn't get a lot of time.
Yeah,
and
I think we'll see
the
more.
emperor, as a character, is a terrible person. But they tell you that from everyone else's perspective. You get to see it from everyone else's perspective. But when he's on screen, he just sort of like is there. He doesn't have opportunities.
He's more of a scumbag than a like. You can tell he's a terrible person. It's more of like you just look like a bad person. I think he'd be the person to like steal your juice box at lunch or something.
I don't think he's acted poorly. I just think he
didn't have much to work with.
It's the same as Florence Pugh in my eyes. Like we're gonna see more of those people, I think. I assume
they didn't kill him and they didn't kill her, so they'll be.
If they killed him, I would be very, very.
The only reason we might not see him is if there's like a time skip in the next movie,
because he could easily die,
and he just dies of old age. Like not Christopher Walken, but the emperor.
The emperor, yeah, because that's what has been foretold.
Yeah,
I loved Leia Seydoux in her small role.
I did not know she was in it beforehand, and Jake's like, "What?" And Jake and Cam were like, "What? You didn't?"
She's giving me Death Stranding vibes.
She's in that.
She's giving me that character.
Yeah, I love her little role. It makes so much sense that she's like a part of those people, and the weird pseudo chemistry she has with Butler is interesting. That scene is so strange and so good.
Well, she says after, because she says the way he can be controlled is by manipulating his sexual like insecurities. And she does that so well in that like little scene.
Yeah, her introduction is so great too, with her watching the Emperor and through the eyeglasses and the black and white Katie Prime. One more thing I think we should talk about acting wise, not a performance because it's just 30 seconds, but Anya Taylor-Joy is in this movie for 30 seconds as such an important character. I had heard about her being in this movie before going in, and I didn't know how long or what role she'd played. And to see her as, spoilers, we're spoiling this movie, we already have, Paul's sister.
What?
Meaning that she's probably going to be in more Dune movies, really, really, shocked me, and I can't wait to see her be a part of this universe.
Cut Chalamet out if they need to age them up, because she's not even born yet.
Huh?
No, that's not going to happen.
They're not going to cut Chalamet.
No. They're not going to be in a scene together because age differences.
You don't know. They might just like make up CGI, age him up. I don't think they'll make that be a problem. Anyway. Because we'll talk about her a lot when we get to character.
Yeah.
Because of significant changes from the book, and it's really interesting.
Yeah, I know a little bit about that, so I'm excited to hear more about it. What do we think of her showing up?
I think she's great casting because she has that sort of ethereal nature, and the character has that weirdness about it. And also, as I've said this multiple times already, but her cheekbones are just like exactly the same as Timmy's. Like they have the same face shape.
Seeing her and like with the blue eyes and the nose thing, it just made so much sense.
Dressed up in the still suit and everything. It works. Yeah.
Very cool moment.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Okay, so what do you rate acting?
5 out of 5.
5. Yeah. Okay, so on to audio then.
I'll write this down. Audio. All right. Let's start with the score. Hans.
My man.
Zimmer.
He brought it.
Hans Zimmer.
Mr. Zimmer.
That feels so weird. No. So there was an interview he did with somebody, and not Hans himself. Denis was doing an interview about the score, and he said that Hans was still sending him music after the movie had been released in cinemas. He's still sending him for like, oh yeah, like you'll see for
After part
for-
one?
After part one.
Oh, okay.
I should specify. Sorry. After part one, Hans was still sending him music for part two. Before
And I did read
even,
he's already writing music for Dune 3 too.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
And
that's
the
just
script has only just been like properly started.
Wow.
he just loves this franchise so much because of what he gets to do.
You
which
can
is
tell.
just
He's
That's
like
so
he
good.
made up instruments. He made
Yeah.
Crazy
created new
stuff.
instruments
Yeah.
for it. I think the score in this movie
Mm-hmm.
works better than the score in the first movie. I think the score in the first movie, I don't know which score I think is better, like just
Mhm.
the score on its own. But I think in the first movie, the score is there to accentuate all these epic moments.
Mm-hmm.
But in the second movie, the score does that whilst also having a lot of the nuance that this second film has.
Totally agree.
So I think I don't prefer this score over the first one or anything like that. I just think it works better with the movie than the first one does.
I totally agree. So many great motifs, and the love theme I've already talked about. It's so good, and so many the epic moments are just. It's just a great score, and I love how much it brings to these movies. It's
Yeah,
always used so well.
fantastic. You just can't go wrong with Hans Zimmer,
No.
except for maybe in The Creator.
Yeah,
But
it
that's
was
not his fault.
it was amazing
that's
to hear.
good. No, that's got nothing to do with him. His
Exactly.
music is still awesome.
It was amazing to hear a fully realized Hans score after The Creator, though, because The Creator doesn't feel like
Oh,
him,
yeah.
and this is obviously him
Yeah.
at his best, in my opinion.
Cam, you've
That's-
been conspicuously silent.
I'm submitting a film to LCA. No, as a band student and like someone who's actually studied film music before, this is like textbook music that actually fits with the script to describe the image on the screen while also describing the character's feelings at the same time. It's just,
There's
oh my God.
there's this quote from the guy who wrote The Godfather, and he wrote the book that it was based on,
Yeah.
and then he wrote the script for the movies. But he hadn't studied screenwriting when he went and wrote the script for the movies. He just like sort of converted it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And after that and the success, he was like, well, if I'm going to do more, I may as well like look it up. So he got a book on screenwriting, and the very first page is study The Godfather.
Oh, wow.
Oh
And
yeah,
that's,
I heard about
that
that.
is Hans Zimmer for this thing. It's, if you want to do film composition, study the score for Dune 2.
I've tried to compose for strings and for an orchestral setup, and it's so hard because I played percussion, piano, and saxophone. Still in a
So
band.
you've not played string instruments.
I haven't played string instruments, but I know how they work, and I have friends who played them, and they've composed some things for me. But even when they do it, it's so hard to get it just right, and you also have to have like the little ticks and the little bangs and little accents on specific moments, and it's I don't know how he does it, but it's just so good.
Yeah, it's you just have to truly understand music and filmmaking,
Mhm.
and Hans Zimmer obviously does.
And he does it with the live orchestra as well, which I will promote till the ends of the earth because
Yeah, it's so cool.
software.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. Okay, so score, I guess we're all giving 5 out of 5.
Score, I'm going to give it 2.5 out
Yeah.
of 2.5.
You sneaky man.
5 out of 5.
Okay, well, what about sound design?
2.5 each because it's a half category.
Right. Sound design was amazing. It's so
It was
unique
awesome.
and so creative and so immersive and all the words. It's so
Yeah.
good.
Like, I don't really have a particular like standout moment for sound design, just because it all stands out as like a
No.
movie where the sound design is so impressive
Mm.
Yeah.
and just stunningly
Yeah.
immersive.
I mean, I'll never get over the sound of the worms just roaring through the desert. Especially
Yeah.
that scene you mentioned, Cam, the scene when he
Yeah.
rides the
First
sandworm.
rides it,
Yeah.
Like,
Also-
if I had to pick a moment that stands out, it would be that,
Yeah.
or any time they use the voice.
The voice sound design, I mean, the first one, genius, and it's the same here, and it's so great. I also really love. We were talking about this actually before, but like the sound of like the. I don't know what it is, but like it sounds like an eye blinking the way that when they change.
Yeah, when they change the magnification
Yeah.
on their little telescope eyepieces, it
So
sounds like a
cool.
really
Yeah.
wet eye
Yeah.
blinking,
Mm-hmm.
and I hate it, but it's also genius.
Yeah, it's so good.
Like if you want to study like decent sound design, Dune, obviously, both of them
Yeah.
amazing, but also the Batman.
Oh,
So the sound effects that they use for the Batman is like instead of like a ute going past,
mm-hmm.
they use a truck, like a proper semi trailer with they use that instead of just a small thing. They blow everything out of proportion and it works really well.
Yeah.
And they do this in this movie.
Mm.
I will say, back to score for a little second, some of the moments feel very like that the score didn't need to be this intense in this moment. Like it was, I'm not complaining. It was amazing, but it also was very like, oh, okay. He just woke up. It doesn't
I know
it
exactly
doesn't
what
need to
moment you're
be
talking
like
about.
blasting me with a full brass section. It's
Right.
just like he just woke up. Cool. You could have had like a little ba 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 or something in
I
there.
think him waking up
A
is
little-
such an epic moment. Though.
Just
every
an
every
alarm.
time
Just alarm.
Muad'Dib wakes up, the world should be screaming.
Well, Stilgar is because he's like, oh my god, he's awake.
My son, my
Muad'Dib.
boy is the king.
Yeah,
My boy. What's that from? Oh my god.
I think these films understand how to use audio in score and sound design to
Goblet of Fire.
yeah.
to complement the cinematic experience you have so well.
Yeah, it's just so impressive.
No complaints.
Yeah.
Sound design,
5.
2.5 out of 2.5.
5.
So audio overall is a 5 out of 5 out of 5. Now, the next category.
100 out of 10. 100
The
out of
next
5.
category, cinematography.
100.
These guys are so excited. They're just dropping things left, right, and center.
Oh my god.
Dude, this is his best work.
This is the best thing I've ever seen from Fraser.
I couldn't believe how he topped himself once again.
It stands out
Like,
so much.
I'd rate the Batman and Rogue One above the first Dune, I'd say.
Yeah,
in
me
like
too.
terms of
Me too. The Batman was my favorite work from him
cinematography quality.
previously.
Yeah. I'd still say Rogue One's ahead of that, but this
Yeah.
is just so far ahead of everything he's ever done.
It's on another level.
Like they pulled him out of the creator to do this, and
Did they
yes,
actually?
good. They
Wow.
did. They cut him halfway through, and Oren Sofa had to go in and do the DOPing for the rest of the production because he was doing this, and thank God they did.
Yeah.
Because
I couldn't imagine this film not being shot by Greg Fraser. I think this film is so amazing on so many levels. Like the narrative's great, the acting's great, the sound. But this film is so memorable because of how it looks. And that's parts of the needs. And he's an amazing visual director, understands scale, understands scope. But these two, Fraser and them two working together, bring just it all together and make for the best experience. Like truly see this on the biggest screen you can.
cannot hype this up enough.
Yeah.
Like it was just mind blowing.
Name some favorite shots.
There are some goofy shots that I laugh at. When Charlemagne's running to jump on the worm for the first time, it looks so dumb the way he runs. And I know like it's in sand, it's really hard to run in sand, but it looks so dumb.
But that's not
That's not a Fraser
The
thing.
shot looks
Oh,
amazing.
The shot. Oh yeah. The shot looks incredible, but it's just the acting, and that is a little bit like, oh, okay, fair. But yeah, the way it was framed, how it's in the top third of the frame where everything else is just covered by sand dune in shadow, but in the right third, it's just the sand dune's just completely destroyed. It's a whole muck of dust and
I love the
worm
way
and-
the sand dune splits in half. Oh, when that moment happens.
It's
Yeah,
so cool.
I want a thumper.
Me too.
You
I want a
to
thumper, just-
summon a sandworm.
So many great shots of
Just
just
for
the thumper going.
Yeah, I
It
know.
always looks so cool.
And how it
sounds so cool.
dissipates the sand around it.
I want to know how they made them.
Yeah.
I
Can
don't
you
know.
buy one?
I want one.
Some of the tech in this movie is so cool. Like the wind thing that they like. I don't know what it is, but like.
Oh,
it
the
does
wind
this-
catches,
yeah.
where they catch the moisture.
Yeah, and like how it goes back and forth. That
Yeah.
sound and how it looks.
I've just found the thumper prop, original prop from Dune, directed by
84.
David Lynch, and it was sold for $6,500.
Wow.
But that's really funny. They look pretty cool.
They
The
do
thumpers
look
from
really
that
cool.
movie.
I kind of want one.
You're gonna
Did you
spend
buy it
$6,500.
for me?
I'm gonna make one. I'm not gonna buy one for. I'll trade you your PS5.
Oh, easy.
You're getting the short end of the stick there. $6,500 for $800.
I've got a friend with a 3D printer. It's alright. I'll make it work.
Okay.
There's a 3D design on Reddit on r/June. Oh, that's so sick. What were we talking about?
Anyway,
We're talking
Frasier.
about cinematography. Jesus.
Name some
Okay.
favorite shots.
I need so badly to get this on like Film Grab or something, or like Shot Deck, so I can just, I need this as like reference for future things that I make, because oh my god,
Yeah.
so good. The series of shots that I enjoy the most are like watching the spice go across the dunes.
Yeah.
It's just so
Yeah.
pretty. Oh,
Looks gorgeous.
I can't pick one that I love the most though.
What I do love is, this is going to sound weird, but I like how he doesn't overuse lens flares. Like, they're in the desert, they're in the sun all the time. They could have a lens flare every shot and it would theoretically make sense, but they don't overdo it, and it's so good. Like, the only times there are lens flares are where you're staring directly at the sun and there's probably a silhouette in front of it, because that's every other shot in the movie.
Hot take. I hate lens flares.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
Yeah, I'm
that's
not-
why
I'm
I'm
not a
glad
fan.
they
I'm not a
don't
fan.
overuse it.
Michael Bay has made me hate them, but
I love them.
there's
in
a thing with
Transformers,
anamorphic lenses where people get them because of the flare. I hate that aspect of them because it's just so annoying. Like, if it could kind of make sense if you want to blind a character or obscure something, but apart from that, it's just annoying.
I'm
I
not
would
usually a fan of it.
the only reason I'd get anamorphics is for that squish, the distortion and the oval shape bokeh. Apart from that, the flares annoy the hell out of me. But they are so well done in this movie.
Yeah.
Just the use of, they used an Arri Alexa 65. So if you know what that is, that's like the holiest of movie cameras, ever. It's got 3 of the original Super 35 Alexa sensors stacked next to each other. So there's like a whole tier list. You go and Google like the tier list of Arri cameras, but it's 3 stacked together, so it makes the same size as, I believe it's a 70mm IMAX like film negative. It's the exact same size, like sensor wise.
Jesus.
They also used a mini LF, which is only 2 sensors stacked next to each other. Jake.
Jake's just been moving all around and doing weird
He's
stuff
pulled
in
his
the
chair
corner.
up to the highest height possible to where his knees are almost on top of the desk.
It's better.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a
Anyway,
insane camera.
It's an
and
insane camera, and what he's done with this is just mind blowing. I love it so much.
It's like
I
it's-
want to talk about this more when I can actually find stills and like actually pick shots to reference.
it's
because-
really funny because you go like, the camera doesn't make the film, the cinematographer does. Like, you could use any camera.
Yeah.
And that is definitely true. I'm trying to imagine this film with any other camera and it would be bad. But then also, like, this film with that camera but me behind it, it would be so bad.
Well, yeah, and this is where Greg Fraser is like, he's a god.
Yeah.
He is a god. Jake's got a poster of him over his bed. I saw it the other day. It's a little bit weird, but I 100% agree.
Now I'm gonna get another one after seeing Dune 2.
A spare. Okay.
The stuff on Gady Prime is just like
Oh my God.
some of the coolest.
All right, let's talk about that now.
Yeah,
actually,
I feel like you have thoughts on that.
this kind of bleeds into VFX. Yeah. So the stuff on Gady Prime, with just the way they. So Jake said they used an
Infrared lens.
infrared lens or filter.
He said lens,
Okay,
but I could be wrong.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
They use so. I assume it had a filter on it, but it's a filter that cuts out anything but infrared light. That's how they were able to get super smooth, crisp skin tones and sand tones. Because you notice if you just take a clip into Premiere or whatever and take the saturation out of it, you still have heaps of detail in it. Where this is really smooth, everything there's no texture. It's really weird but so cool. And yeah, I think some of my favorite shots probably come from this scene, just from how unique it is. But it's because the law behind it is because they have a black sun, so it puts out white light.
Mm-hmm.
But then in the shadows, where they have artificial light, you still have like skin tones and other colors.
Mm-hmm.
So the way it's just bending my mind how they did this.
It's a combination of building really dark sets with normal lighting and shooting with an infrared light with.
Well, except for the
outside.
one shot where he's standing at the door and he's in color, and then it opens and he walks out into the black and white out of the shadow.
The first time I saw that,
will be
I was like,
done digitally.
That's
I imagine.
probably, or like when the Baron was floating out into the viewing platform, something like that.
Or maybe they got a special filter made, or it exists where you just like twist it and it like turns on. You know those?
Yeah, like a
because there are
variable
other
ND.
filters that a variable filter essentially, and so they tracked along, had it off, and then turned it so that it was on. They could have done that.
do you have a favorite shot from the film, Ollie?
No, I can't picture one because I can picture so many things and none
We'll
of
come
them.
back
I'm
to
like,
this when they're out on Film Grab or whatever it is.
we'll have to revisit it. But like, no, it just stood out. Like as a film,
Yes.
the cinematography just stood out so much to me.
Yeah.
But no one shot was like so
Amazing that
above
it's just,
the
like,
rest.
stained in your brain.
Not
Right.
because none of the shots were amazing, but because all of them were amazing.
Indeed, I agree.
Okay, I've already rated 5 for cinematography.
You already know.
All of us.
It's
You already know.
definitely 5. Yeah.
5 from everybody for cinematography.
It's so creative.
God.
Yeah.
Like whenever I'm shooting a film, I'm not a cinematographer by like, I won't be one in the future, but I still shoot stuff.
Well, not with that attitude.
I still shoot stuff. But whenever I shoot stuff, I'm just like, I just don't have the Greg Fraser element. I just like, there's something that he knows or like that he can see when he makes a shot that just changes it and elevates it so much. Whereas I'm just
I know how
shooting.
much praise we're giving him, but he needs more praise for this. He
If
needs
he-
to win like all the
He won an
awards.
Oscar for the first Dune, and he'll almost definitely be winning another one for this one, unless something crazy comes.
You better, otherwise I'm going to get really angry.
Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah,
the
no.
It's gonna
best
have
shot
a
movie
better-
you've ever seen. I
That would be amazing.
Anyway.
doubt it.
It's
No,
a
okay,
visual
this is
visual
crazy.
masterpiece.
Amazing. 5 out of 5.
5 out of 5.
Easily.
All right, now let's talk about VFX. Ollie, you said something very interesting about this. You said that the VFX in this are better than the first one.
I think so. In my
Okay.
opinion.
Okay.
It's not like I haven't read that they had more time to do it or anything like I imagine that's the case. I imagine it's just they got more time to spend on it. They had a greater idea. They were drawing from existing assets, all of these different things that just made it crisper and easier to do. I just didn't have any moments where I looked at it and went, oh, that part of it looks a little bit funny, like I did in the first one.
Yeah, that was just the wave.
There were a couple of moments in the first one, but it wasn't anything, like it still wasn't major. I think the CGI was great in the first
If you weren't
one.
paying that much attention to it,
Yeah,
you wouldn't have
exactly.
noticed.
It's just in this one, I was like in some moments actively looking for the CGI to be bad. Like the moment where Paul stands in front of all the Fremen and is like this, I'm like, that has to be a green screen.
No,
But
I
I was
did it for real life.
I was looking right at the edges, and I couldn't see anything that would be even like the most minor detail missed or like aberration to say that it was a green screen. It might not have been a green screen. Could have been a volume or anything. But there was nothing that made it look unnatural.
They should do a
And-
VFX course here.
The only thing that like I was like, hang on, was the reflective ball of the ship.
Yeah.
But I was looking at it and I was like, does that look weird? Or is it a reflection? Like a weird
I was
shape
fully
to reflect
expecting,
off.
like, I know this is dumb, but I was fully expecting to see a reflection of like the camera crew in it.
Why?
I don't
It was
know. but
it was digital.
I know, but I was fully expecting not to, and it was like a 5-second moment where I went, "Huh? How did they get the camera crew out of that reflection?" And then I had to slap myself and go, "You're stupid."
With computer
Just
generated
shut up.
imagery. No, yeah. But it actually looked really good. Like I saw it come on screen and I was like, uh-oh. This is the only moment that it's going to look bad. And then it didn't. It looked really good. So Cam's just pulled out his popcorn. No.
I'm really hungry. I haven't had much food today. Speaking of, would you guys like to see a UC FM branded popcorn smelling air freshener for your car? Let us know.
I would.
You can cut this bit out.
No.
We're talking about VFX here.
Yeah. I don't know
You
how
know
that
so there was a puppeteering. There was a puppeteer listed in the credits, and I'm not sure if it was for like the big sandworms where they shoot them in miniature.
I feel like it was probably the little one.
Probably, where it's just like a little thing that ruffles around under the sand. But I really, really want to see like
The
bu-
puppet of the big sandworm.
the massive sand. They actually made a real life one,
Yeah,
and they were actually riding
imbued
one.
like they have DNA and stuff.
Yeah,
I learned
yeah,
how to
yeah.
ride it. It's pretty
Jurassic Park. You did,
cool.
Where
but
was that
Scorsese
course?
still won't follow you back.
No.
It's
What?
crazy.
Where was that course?
9B2.
No comment.
9v2. Okay.
Undisclosed.
I'm going there
area.
after this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's definitely the MRC. 9B2.
No, it's at 9b8.
Oh, 9B8. No.
Anyway.
Is there anything more we can say about the CGI? I
It
think
was
we've said
really,
it's
really good.
Yeah. really
I
good.
feel like
It was
Well, that's where kind of
it
where
was
the
just
eye-
far and away above like what I liked about it is it looks natural. Like there are some movies where the CGI looks really sharp and crisp and like all the edges look perfect and it looks like it could be really in front of them. But because a lot of the cinematography in this is soft and grainy and it has like blurred edges and stuff, the CGI just blends in. And so it's not that like the CGI doesn't look good because it doesn't have all these sharp edges. It's just that it feels like a part of it and it feels so ingrained and it just works.
That was a bad
Yes.
joke.
I don't care.
Like it was funny, but it was also bad.
yeah, it's
But
perfect.
no, I
VFX.
100% agree. However, actually, now that I think about it, there was one scene when he walks into the arena, and I was looking really closely at all of the people. There were copies of people. There were
Well,
people
yeah.
wearing the same thing, but there were also some that weren't moving. And same when he was
But
in the
I
big
don't
crowd.
feel like
when Paul was
Paul was-
walking through the
yeah.
big crowd in the top-down shot.
but I don't feel like that's a problem with the CGI. Like obviously it's a limitation
yeah.
of the software, but I don't think it's a problem visually because in a crowd not everyone's going to be moving and not everyone's going to be doing the exact same thing.
Why not?
But
There should be. It's Paul. Come
well, if we get into the psychology,
on. Okay, all right.
no, I don't think it's a problem, and I think wearing the same clothes on Gady Prime.
That's a Harkonnen thing.
Yeah, it just feels like a Harkonnen thing.
Okay.
So I think that was like it didn't look bad. So I don't think it's
Speaking of Gady crime.
Gady Crime on
Crime.
Gady Prime.
Prime.
There's been some crime
the
there.
fireworks.
Yes,
Yeah.
dude. I'll never get over that.
It looks like the whole planet is covered in this really like not thick but kind of translucent layer of oil where everything is where it's kind of contained by it. Like it's all in kind of a liquid but also not. It's hard to explain if you haven't seen like these fireworks. This is gonna be really
It's
hard
like
to
drops
explain.
of water
They're ink
landing in
blots.
something. Yeah, it's like you've
like
got a
ink
drop
blots.
of ink, and you've splashed it into like an ink pot, and that has then splashed over onto a page.
But then it comes back together.
Yeah.
So it pops out and then comes back, but the only thing left is like a little bit of smoke.
It looks unbelievably
just-
cool.
One of the coolest fireworks I've ever seen.
I have never seen anything like that before in a movie.
It's so unique and impressive.
Mhm.
So, what are we rating VFX? 5?
I don't know. The people not moving. It was a bit. I give it
2,
half a star.
1.
I don't know, honestly.
Yeah, half
Cam's
a
a
star.
stickler.
Five for all.
Yeah.
You've
Oh,
already
boy.
written a 5.
Yeah, I've already put my 5 in there. Yeah, definitely 5.
All right. So far we've given every single category and subcategory. We've all given 5s.
I'm
Yeah.
so nervous
So-
about this next category because this is where I have all of my thoughts, but I'm so worried that I'm just going to devolve into like, and then this, and, but,
Feel free.
So-
Feel free.
feel free to just devolve.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanna hear.
Well, this next category he pulls out a note.
This is definitely the most like the big point to talk about because everything else is like, yeah, this movie's a technical masterpiece. But I think where this film really establishes itself is in its story and the characters and
So that's what we're going to talk about
So
now. So we've
I
got
have split story
yeah.
into character and plot.
what a
I
good choice.
actually want to talk about plot first because I think it is the simpler of the two.
Yes.
The plot of this film pretty much follows the book in that they start out where they were at the
Mhm.
end of the first one,
Picks up
and they
soon after.
finish with spoilers. If you hadn't already known, we're spoiling the movie. Paul
Yeah,
killing
spoiler warning when we're
Fade Routher
nearly down the
and
end.
essentially becoming the Emperor. And they start leaving Arrakis, like boarding the Emperor's ships and leaving Arrakis to go towards paradise, as they keep saying.
Mhm.
The Lisan al-Gaib, the voice from the outer world who will lead them to paradise. That is the plot. They develop the characters so that Paul goes from essentially a kid with the like a duke's background and the upbringing of the Bene Gesserit into someone who could theoretically lead a whole planet of millions of people into taking down a galactic empire and becoming the emperor himself. Like, you see that arc in the film and you watch essentially the machinations of the enemies of the emperor, of the Harkonnens, of the Bene Gesserit, who I definitely think are the villains of the story of Dune.
Oh, for sure.
And you see Paul and the Fremen and whoever's left of the Atreides come up against them. It's this perfect plot of good versus evil. Well, I say good versus evil, of the protagonists versus the antagonists, and they have opposing goals, and they're both fighting for a reason, and it's done masterfully.
Mm.
What is so interesting about it, though, is that all of the characters are grey. Almost every character is grey. Like, they have motivations and they have morals, but there's just such a way about them where you don't always feel like you're on the same side as these protagonists.
Mhm.
And like, there are some characters where, yeah, sure, you understand them the whole way through, or they have the same, like, they're not changing so much, or I know we're not talking about characters at the moment, we're talking about plot, but the way they come together is like, it feels expected. But then
Mhm.
there are some characters where, as you follow their character arc, they sort of dip and they ebb and flow, and it's up and down. Most notably, Paul.
Maybe.
But maybe
Maybe.
you don't-
I don't know.
you don't
I
reckon?
don't know.
no, I don't think so. Actually,
have
I
to
think
go and
he's the
chat with
least complicated
Timmy Boy.
character in the story. Paul. I don't think he really matters.
All right.
But what's interesting about the story of the movie is the stuff they changed from the book, because they didn't change too much. One thing they changed, Paul's sister is born in the book. So there's a time skip in the book at pretty much the point, like a little bit after the point that Dune 1 ended. There's a time skip like in Siege Tableau.
Okay.
That's where the time skip is, and Paul's sister is born, and she's like this little kid walking around with an adult mind. And in the books, it's really creepy, or in the book, the first one, it's really creepy because she's this kid who sort of can rationalize like an adult, speak like an adult, understand people like an adult, and in the book, she's pre-born, which I'm still not really sure I understand what it means, but she has the knowledge of her female ancestors, which includes the Bene Gesserit. Like all of her female ancestors have been Bene Gesserit, and also she just knows things about the Fremen that she's around. She's like, I know about, like, because Jessica becomes the Reverend Mother, she knows about the history of this Siege and the Fremen people there. And so Paul's sister, whose name is Alia, Alia knows all this stuff about them. And so it's really creepy. And I love how they played on that, because obviously in this movie, she's not born.
It's a good choice.
She's still in the womb, but she speaks to her mother. And they played on the creepiness, and they changed the creepiness to be internal, and it really makes Jessica that much creepier. And I think she is more the antagonist of this film in a way than the Baron, because the Baron's just evil. It's just obvious. But Jessica gets this taste of power and manipulation, and she already had this like understanding, and she's like, I'm going to manipulate and direct my son into becoming the emperor, taking control, getting back our family's power, doing all this. Like
against
that's all
the
her.
Bene Gesserit, though. But this is
Against the
because
Bene Gesserit.
that's what she was, and that's what she knows. And
Yeah,
then
and that's
she
all
plays on
from-
that throughout the whole. That's how she becomes the Reverend Mother.
Yeah.
And her end goal is pretty much just reinstate the Atreides family.
But as the imperial family rather than just another
Yeah.
one of the great houses.
Yeah.
And that's why I think the Bene Gesserit are the villains, because she couldn't just do that. She's a product of this manipulative group of people, and we see it from the original Reverend Mother, Gaius Helena Maxima, I think her name is. No, Gaius Helen, I don't know.
The first Reverend Mother that died.
Yeah. No, she doesn't die.
Oh, she doesn't.
Gaius Merrill.
Is that what it is?
Merle, sorry.
Reverend. No.
What?
That's
Am I reading it right?
That's the actor. The Reverend Mother, like the one who was in the first movie.
Charlotte
the-
Rampling.
Yeah, Charlotte Rampling's character. She's the emperor's like the Reverend Mother of that house. Like we see her, we see Leia Seydoux's character, we see who's I can't remember her first name. I think I've written it down. Margot Fenring. That's her name. So we see her, Princess Irulan, who is Florence Pugh. She's also been brought up by the Bene Gesserit, and then Lady Jessica. We see these 4 Bene Gesserit women, and they like anytime there's a scene which is just exposition, there's always one of them.
Because that's more of like this is our knowledge.
Behind the scenes manipulation, knowledge base. And they're creepy, and they're setting everything up.
I will say the moment where Paul uses the voice
Oh
on
my
her,
god, it's such
that
a
is like such a middle finger.
and it's
Yeah.
an
I
amazing
love
parallel
it.
to the first movie and
Exactly.
the Gom Jabbar scene when he puts the hand in the box. She says she yells silence at him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think the plot of this movie, just seeing those manipulations, and I've got a quote here from Guardian.
Yeah.
Essentially, the plot is about This is where the quote starts. Political machinations, betrayals, zealotry, the weaponization of fear, and the looming threat of a devastating religious war. And like, it goes from the first movie's epic battles and political machinations, and essentially the not understanding, like, it's mostly just political. In this, it gets like
flipped,
religious and political, and everything goes sideways. And I think they do that extremely well.
I agree.
What else have I got written down? Yeah, that's pretty much it. Another thing about the plot is they had to cut it down because this movie would have been longer than 2 hours and 50 minutes. They cut out the guy in the first movie, Thufir Hawat, the Mentat. He's the guy, white hair, who, like, he's the calculator, essentially.
With the black thing.
Yeah, he had the little
rolls his eyes
tattoo on his bottom lip.
It's actually from a stain from drinking too much. Oh, I forget. But it's like some chemical that they all drink to help.
Spice melange,
I think
Is that
so,
why
yeah.
Fade Routh's teeth are black?
probably.
That might be something different, but
Maybe.
I know like the Harkonnen Mentats have that too. And I know
But wouldn't his eyes be blue?
No.
no.
So blue eyes is from spice.
Oh, it's from
Refined. Spice melange is like the refined spice stuff.
Okay.
But essentially, there are these two like factions outside of all the houses. There's the Bene Gesserit and there's the Mentats. And the Mentats are like, every house has a Bene Gesserit advisor and a Mentat advisor. And the Mentats, who are like David Dastmalchian, Amalkian, played the Mentat for the Harkonnens in the first movie. Essentially what the story was going to be is Thufir, who is the Mentat for the Atreides, he survives the attack in the first movie, captured by the Harkonnens, and is forced to become their Mentat. And what the Mentats are is essentially computers, because they've outlawed AI and they've outlawed all of this different technology.
I was reading about this morning.
Yeah.
Because they had an AI uprising and were like, yep, we're not
Yeah,
using
it was
that
called the Butlerian Jihad, where they outlawed AI. But yeah, it's really interesting. And so these guys are essentially computers, and they can like
That's why
do
their
the
eyes go
calculate.
white
They roll
when they
their
ask
eyes
something.
back into their head, and they do these calculations. But yeah, they cut all of his storyline, where essentially he would have been struggling with that, and he has to like still try and do good whilst working for his captors and the enemies of his house. And then they also cut Lady Margot Fenring. She is the wife of Count Fenring, who is like a close friend of the Emperor, and he's apparently this like really good fighter and really like dark, intelligent man who would have been doing all this manipulating and talking to the Emperor, and probably would have seemed scarier than the Emperor. But they cut him.
He wasn't. The Emperor wasn't very scary. To be honest.
They cut him because they couldn't have it would have just been too much manipulation. But everything else they had made sense, worked for the story. It was just great.
Do you think we'll see some of that in
We
Dune
might.
3?
We might.
Because I know that goes into the second book, Dune Messiah. I don't know what happens in that, and I don't know what those characters have to play a role in that, and I don't know if you know. I was just wondering if you.
Yeah, we'll find out. I think it's very possible.
Interesting.
Because essentially what Denis said is he had to make a decision about whether he was going to focus on the Mentat or the Bene Gesserit. And he decided that the Bene Gesserit were the more important ones to focus on.
I think
that they
more
are
interesting.
essentially the ones behind everything.
He's right, and I feel like that was the best choice.
Yeah.
We'll never know, but I feel like I can't imagine this film without the Bene Gesserit presence being so.
I still think they should have had Mentat characters.
Yeah, I think
exposition.
I think they made like it. I don't think it hinders the story that they're not there, but I think it would have added to the story had they been there.
Yeah, and you don't need to do that could have been like 5 minutes at the most.
Yeah.
It could have been quick. So
Not even. It could have been us.
I mean, I would have watched another
Hey,
hour
where
of
are
this
these
movie,
people?
to
Like
be honest.
when they're in the strategy room,
Yeah.
and they're talking about that, instead of having the people that you're cutting their heads off, what if you cut the heads off
Thufir.
Mentat instead. Yeah.
I don't feel the length of this movie at all, so I wouldn't have been mad if he made it longer.
You don't feel the length of any movie, but I
That's
agree.
Not true.
I agree. This it worked. Like the timing, the pacing of the story is really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just think the plot
Mm-hmm.
works really well.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where I want to get into character, because I think the plot ends, and I didn't feel like when we finished the movie and I said I was just sitting there like having to process it all. I wasn't sure. Like I knew I liked it, but I wasn't sure I was happy, because it ends in such a dark note and tone. Because essentially, Paul takes a villainous turn. Like he's still the protagonist, but he's no longer the good guy.
This could be where it loses some points.
I know, because this is what happens in the books.
I know.
But essentially, Paul decides after drinking the water of life, he knows all this stuff about the past and the future, and he knows he's a Harkonnen, which no one knew. Well, like no one in his family knew until they drank the water of life, which no one in the family knew that like they were Harkonnens, and it gives so much depth to the characters who are like, they're so proud of being Atreides, and they're so hateful of the Harkonnens, who are so hateful of them.
Even though they're the same.
It turns out they're all one big family.
Very, I'm going to tread incredibly lightly with this, but yes, it's definitely based off some real world stories where people have become mortal enemies, even though they are so similar, and they are almost family.
Yeah. It's really interesting, and it provides Paul with this like catalyst where he could have gone either way. And that's the same thing with like when he decided to go south. He was like, if I go south, millions of Fremen will die. And then he pretty much decides he has to go south. He didn't, but if he hadn't, he would have probably died. So he had to go
either one person or millions.
Yeah. But they didn't know how binary that choice. It might not even have been. They might have. All the Fremen might have been wiped out if Paul didn't go south. So he goes south. He drinks the water of life, and he decides that even though he's had this vision and he knows this future, he still has to do it, because he has to get revenge. He has to take control. He has to take out these villains. And yeah, sure, the Harkonnens are technically worse people than Paul is, even in his like dark mode at the end.
Dark mode.
But like he's still becoming like them. And so Paul's character is really interesting in that way. Especially like one quote I saw was that he's like giving in to the danger of his charismatic leadership. So the emperor, when he finds out that Paul is alive, when he gets that scroll, he just drops it on the ground, and he immediately decides we have to go to Arrakis and wipe them all out.
Because if they don't, he's going to lose his throne. So overall, what would you give plot? Because there's so much to unpack. I don't think we can unpack all of it.
I think the plot, like, it works. It works so well. They're using all these intense, like, concepts. Like I said, political machination, zealotry, religious war. But it's all understandable. You know what's going on. You can grasp it. It makes sense. And the arc that they follow doesn't feel like anything came out of left field. It all makes sense, and it's satisfying. Even though the ending is like, it's dark. He gets his revenge. Like it has a satisfying conclusion on Arrakis. And so I think the plot 5. Like I think it's still good.
Okay.
Characters is where it gets really deep and interesting.
Yeah. I'd say that yes, you're 100% right. And this is a good example of like you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become a villain.
Which Christopher Nolan said is the line that haunts him from that movie.
'Cause he didn't write
sticks
it.
in his head. His brother wrote it,
Oh
and
my
he's like,
God.
"This line haunts me because it's so good, but I
It's
didn't
the one
write
thing I
it."
didn't write. Yeah. He'll be okay on March 11th when he's winning every award known to man.
When does that start? 11:30.
I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, you
I'm
were
going
saying.
to watch it. Yeah, 5 out of 5. I think. I know that was you were just talking for the whole thing, but I can't add any more to that. I agree with everything that you said.
It's just like, I know it's an adaptation, so like props for the story essentially go to Frank Herbert, but as a screenwriting like example, it's such a perfect example of screenwriting and how you take these characters and you put them in a world and you inject all these problems into them and you go solve them.
Wasn't Star Wars influenced by Dune?
Well, yeah, like all sci-fi stuff was influenced by Dune.
But all sci-fi stuff was influenced by Star Wars.
Not 2001.
It's sci-fi.
No, but 2001 also. Yeah, okay, you're not wrong. It's a freaky circle.
They all influence each other.
Yeah.
Not like a circle, but it's a freaky circle.
Yeah. Christopher Nolan compared this film to Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah,
Which is such a cliche.
I've seen a lot of comparisons like that, but it makes so much sense. It's like it took what was already a fantastic movie with these fantastic premises, and it just built on it so much, and it delved way more into character, whilst also having epic action. Like, it's the perfect comparison.
It's such a cliche thing to say, but you're right. It does make sense, and like the ending definitely accentuates that with it being such a, sort of a downer ending, but still being so epic.
Yeah, it is interesting though, because Empire ends very much on a downer, whereas Dune Part 2 ends on a triumph, but in a negative way. It's like they were successful and they won, but you don't feel like they won.
It's a great ending because the music is so it's right, it's a triumph. The music,
but at what cost?
the music is so heroic, but it ends on Chani and her face.
Yeah.
And it hurts. Zendaya is doing so
And
much in that.
So that's why I want to go into characters. I've already talked.
I haven't given my
mostly-
plot score, but
Oh, yeah,
that's
true.
a 5 out of 5.
5 out of 5. Talked,
Sorry, you just had 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
0.
0. Okay.
talked mostly about Paul a lot already, but I just want to mention one more thing, and that's he is willing to destroy Arrakis, which is totally counter to like everything he's been led to believe in this moment. And it's not a character flaw in like the writing. It's a flaw in him as a person in that he has used and helped and saved these people, the Fremen, and they've worked together and they've formed this bond. And now, in order to further lead them to paradise, he will destroy their home. I don't know, like I haven't read Dune Messiah, so I don't know if they actually will nuke Arrakis, but it was essentially like the attacker, like he said to the great houses, attack us and get nuked, or accept me as emperor, and they didn't accept him as
Nuke
emperor.
the spice fields.
Well, yeah, it's specifically the spice fields, but
He was going to glass them, so they couldn't use spice anymore.
Yeah.
And he was willing to do. Actually,
Well, Fade Ratha does say he's bluffing, but I don't think he was.
no, he was willing
I think
to do
he's
it.
willing, and yeah, like it might not destroy Arrakis as a whole, but like the Fremen probably wouldn't be able to live there anymore. Because the spice fields are in the north. That's where most of the Fremen are in the south, but it's complicated. It's really complicated, and I think it's really interesting that he would be willing to do that and probably permanently damage their home, which has helped him so much.
In canon, are there any other planets that create spice? Like
No.
So it's
That's why Dune is so important as a planet, because spice is so important. It is what the intergalactic navigators use. It's what the Mentats use. It's like without it, there would be no space travel, and there would be no computers, essentially. And so, like, they need spice, and so that's why why they think he's bluffing, and why he's willing to do it to like, essentially stop them from attacking him.
Can I just say I was not ready for Paul's journey. We're going to talk about Paul one more time, but I was not ready for his journey in this film. I haven't read the books, and based off the first one, what I knew going in, I'm going to use an analogy here. It won't be perfect, and it's just going to be Star Wars again. I expected them to be Luke Skywalker, not Anakin, which he more so is.
Yeah.
And
He has a more similar arc.
it just really, really impacted me, especially with the stuff with Chani. There's so many parallels between Padme and Anakin, Paul and Chani. It's a crazy arc, and I think the plot does it so well, and it makes so much sense for the character while being so surprising.
Yeah. And so on that, I want to talk about Chani next as the next most important character in the film.
Yeah.
They've made major changes to Chani from the book.
Interesting.
Major.
Mm.
In
What
the
are those?
book,
Okay.
Paul comes in. Chani's like, hell yeah, I agree with you all the way, bro. And just all the way through.
As a New Zealander, that was a terrible
That was
New Zealand
bad.
accent.
But-
Why did you go to New Zealand
I
there?
don't know, I just thought it would be funny.
Peru.
Yeah, that was bad. Anyway, I'm leaving it in. Yeah, she's on his side pretty much from the beginning. She is a religious Fremen, unlike in the movie. She
Wow.
is not
Wow.
a Fedaykin, which she is in the movie. She's just like, she and Stilgar are like his biggest supporters in the book.
Oh.
And the one who's like the biggest, the character in the books who's like to the Fremen, the biggest like, creepy, or like, I don't think they should belong. Is not Paul, but Alia, because she's alive and born.
Wow. That's so fascinating.
Like they just accept Paul in the books pretty much straight away, but Alia is this character who is. They question her and they're like, why is she here? She shouldn't be one of us.
Interesting.
And so they've changed Chani very significantly. And that's why I think Zendaya is like one of the top actors in it,
Mm-hmm.
because she's not working with existing material.
Yeah.
She has to flip her character completely.
Yeah. And
That's
she
totally
creates this experience where you're watching this character have, like, she has the Padme arc where she's like, she doesn't care for him, like he's just some guy, and she falls in love with him, then she believes in him, and then she is anti him even though she still loves him. She disagrees with him, and that's why I think she's such a powerful character, because she believes in the Fremen
Mm-hmm.
but not in the religious beliefs, because all of the Fremen's religious beliefs are just the beliefs of the Bene Gesserit that they've been feeding them for centuries. And that's what she says in her most powerful line.
Which I wonder, is there a real world comparison? Because that's so clever.
Well, essentially, they've turned it away because in Dune, like in the book, Paul is this white savior.
Yes.
Like that's his
Oh,
character.
that's it.
He's a white savior.
No flaws.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
He still has this darkness as he goes. Like his story's pretty much the same, but because the Fremen are just pretty much 100% on his side, he's just this white savior.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now there's actually this friction where some of the Fremen don't believe in him, but they just have to go along with it, and you see this conflict between like factions of the Fremen, and you see the conflict between the Fremen as this indigenous group against Paul, the white savior. And so that's why they flipped Chani,
It's a genius choice.
because it makes so much more sense and it fits better for a modern telling when we actually believe in indigenous rights and things like that. Well,
I have a question.
No,
Yeah.
that's really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is Chani in the book a part of the prophecy like she is in the movie?
I think so, yeah. Like
Okay.
that hasn't changed.
Okay.
It's
It's
more
just
just her
her
motivations and her
Yes.
beliefs.
Yeah.
That makes
Like, she's
that
still
makes
the
her
same
being a part of the
character.
prophecy even more interesting.
Yeah.
I need to read this book.
Yeah, I really didn't want to read it, especially after
And
seeing
so
it.
Without spoiling
that's
it.
why I think Chani
Yeah.
is really important.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's why her fighting, her argument with Jessica, right at the end of the movie is really
That
pertinent.
scene is so great.
And
Underrated scene.
yeah, she's just this figure. And so even though she doesn't get a lot of dialogue in the big climax, it's why all of her looks are so important. And it's why when Paul says that he would be with her, and I love you
Until
as
his
long
heart
as
stops
I have
beating.
breath in my in me.
Yeah.
It's why him then going I'm going to do all of this stuff which is anti your beliefs, while I'm still breathing,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to take Princess Ulan's hand in marriage. All of that immediately after he's said, "I'll love you while as long as I have breath in my lungs."
Yeah.
It's so painful to her, and it's why
Yeah.
she leaves, because not only has the man she loved like essentially betrayed her, but he's betrayed her people, and he's betrayed her beliefs, and he's essentially gone all in on himself.
And the beliefs and the people he's betrayed are with him.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And
There-
so that's why she's so
Yeah.
anti, and it's why I think she's such a powerful character, which is then again why I think Zendaya is such
Yeah. She's
like a pertinent
Yeah,
actress in
great
this
call.
in this film.
She's really, really good, and I'm excited to see what more she has to do in this franchise. When I first saw it for the first time, and he says, "I'll take Princess Aurelian's hand," there was like, and it's cut straight to Zendaya in her face. Her reaction so good.
I could feel the tension.
So many
in
gasps
that room.
in
I could
that
feel the
theater.
tension. Like,
Yeah.
ooh, okay, all right, that's yeah.
Yeah.
I
Which,
don't.
like, it makes sense for Paul as like a I'm gonna be emperor,
Yeah.
because it was already a possibility.
Mhm.
Like the Bene Gesserit were like, either we'll do this, we'll marry Paul to a Harkonnen princess, or we'll marry Paul to the empress, like the princess, or we'll marry Feyd-Rautha to that princess,
Yeah.
or we'll marry like
They thought
it's
of
all
the
these different
possibilities.
things, and that's why the Bene Gesserit are just so
Yeah.
evil, because all of this stuff that's happening, all of this like destruction of the Fremen, destruction of Arrakis, all the political like machinations and the manipulation between all these different houses and everything, it all leads back to the Bene Gesserit rather than to the actual figureheads.
Yeah.
He's so too.
They set it up so well, and like Lady Jessica says to him, like maybe 45 minutes into the movie, that you have to reserve your hand for someone of a powerful position, essentially. But still, when he does that and he betrays her, it's so you just can't believe it. At least I couldn't.
And that's also
I did.
Sorry,
I
go
thought he was going to give the middle finger to his mum and go, "No, that's not how this should work." And
Yeah.
well, however, Chani is a powerful person. She in the Fremen culture.
yeah, she's looked like up to. So another thing about Chani in the books is if Jessica hadn't been there, she was one of the people in line to be, they don't call it the Reverend Mother in the Fremen tongue, but like she was on that path.
Chani.
Like, yeah, Chani. She could have been the next Reverend, one of the next Reverend
Jesus.
Mothers, if not the next. And so, like, that was a change, because instead of being, like, that's why she was so religious. Like, she was brought up to be that next person, believe the Bene Gesserit beliefs. And so making that change and having her serve to antagonize Jessica just works so much better, I think.
I totally agree.
And then, now that we're talking about Jessica again, her and Alia, so creepy. Like, I think
Unbelievable.
Paul's decision making in this film was very interesting, and talking about Paul's character and his choices is
A lot of them feel very in the moment, because even though he will dwell on an issue for a while and then seemingly, because of all this thinking he's done, drift to one answer and then all of a sudden go, actually, no, that's wrong. Other answer.
well, he tends to take the wrong, well, I say wrong, the option that he has deemed to be the more negative one.
Yeah.
And that's not, in the earlier part of the film, it's not because he wants to, it's because he has to, because the other option gets closed off to him because of conflict or whatever the case may be. But in the latter half of the film, pretty much from the moment he drinks the water of life, it's all his own decision. Like, he chooses the bad option, essentially, the evil option, because of revenge and because of the politics and because of all these things. And if he hadn't drank the water of life, things would have been different. And the reason he drank the water of life, his mother's manipulation. And part of the reason his mother manipulated him, the baby speaking to her. Like, it's all this cycle between Paul, the baby, his mum. It's like this weird Venn diagram cycle connection between them that just, like, he's speaking to the baby through his mum, and earlier on you can't tell if, like, when you can't hear the baby, his mum is just saying, "Oh, she says," but that could just be what she's
that could
saying.
just be his mum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's
But
listening to the baby.
There is a cute little
It's-
moment
yeah,
where
it's-
she goes, where she's just walked into the worm chamber
And she
and
goes,
is learning
"Shut up,"
about it.
to
Yeah,
the
she just
baby.
tells the baby to shut up. It's so
Yeah.
funny.
So it's really interesting. I think they are.
Exploring that
Very
relationship more, I
interesting
would be
characters.
so down for.
Yeah.
That would be.
And so I do hope they bring in Anya Taylor-Joy, but I hope they keep Timothée Chalamet,
Yes.
because they will play off each other in such an interesting way, because
Mhm.
both of their characters in the next book are going to be so important
Plus they
in the next
age.
movie.
So you don't know anything else that's going to happen.
I don't know
You haven't
anything
read it.
I don't know anything about Dune Messiah.
All right, you got to get on it.
Dude,
I will.
Messiah could be the greatest movie ever made, guys.
But yeah, it's like the connection and influence between those characters. Like, in the book, I don't know anything about Dune Messiah, but I'm sure that Alia has such a major role because she's already born
Mhm.
halfway through Dune, but
Mhm.
she's not born yet.
Mhm.
So I don't know. It's really interesting, and we'll see how it goes. It's
Mhm.
going to be crazy, but I think the characters, they've just got so much nuance, but it
Yeah.
all makes sense. None of the nuance is like confusing or out of character.
Mhm.
I just
It's
think
so easy
they
to
come
follow.
together. They're all foils for one another,
Mhm.
and I like the changes they've made because they make more sense for the plot, and I think story overall just
Yeah.
works really nicely.
It's a genius storytelling, these two movies together, especially this film. I talked about this a little bit earlier with Stilgar, but like, I love the tonal aspects of this film. How funny it is in the first half, and it's not, comedic all the time, but like there's like a lightheartedness of the first half, and how it so seamlessly divulges into being dark and tragic, and you watch it again, and the stuff in the first half becomes more tragic.
But there's still humor in it,
Yeah.
which is done so well.
Yeah.
But I think Ollie is covered. Again, it's always in the plot sections. You are such a screenwriter, my goodness. But you've covered everything amazingly. I 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all
I
I
would
can
give it a
say, but
5 out of 5.
Definitely a 5.
this is the highest rated movie we've ever talked about, reviewed, or even mentioned before.
Well, it's just I've seen it once, and I feel like I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas other movies, I see it once and I don't feel like I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
I would still need to see it again to have more thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And it's by no means a perfect movie. Like, I reckon I could, the more I see it, the more I will think about the plot, and the more I'll go like, oh, well, this and that. But at the moment, it's perfect.
Yeah.
And it can stay that way in my mind until I watch the next one when the third movie comes out, or when I finish reading all the books. But I am going to read, at the very least, Dune and Dune Messiah.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking I might read all 6
Wow.
Frank Herbert books. But there's like a 3,500 year time skip
wow.
between
Yeah.
2 of the books. I can't remember which ones. And so I'm just like, yeah.
I'll definitely read the
It's
first one
crazy.
before Messiah comes out. I'm not going to read Messiah. I felt so confirmed by my beliefs of not reading the first book, because of like the visceral reaction I had to the story and the twists and the turns, like not knowing anything, even though it was changed. It was just so great.
Yeah. I feel like normally I would not want to know the story
Mm-hmm.
before a movie comes out.
Mm-hmm.
But in the case of Dune Messiah, I just feel like it's going in this way,
Yeah.
and I have to know. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
it'll be more satisfying to me.
Fair.
Unlike normal, watching Dune Messiah will be more satisfying to me having read it
Yeah.
than it otherwise would. Because I remember watching the first Dune, having read the book, but not really remembering it, and going, "Whoa, this is like I remember," but it's
Mhm.
because I don't remember it so strongly, it's like this, and it was a really interesting viewing experience.
Cool.
Whereas watching the second part, it did just feel entirely new,
Mm-hmm.
and that was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But it meant when it ended, I was like, oh, I do not
How am I
remember
supposed
this
to
at
feel?
all.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to feel? Where does this fit in with my understanding of Dune? And so now, I'm going to go read Dune Messiah, and then be ready for Dune Messiah,
When do
the
you think that will
movie, to
come
come out in 2028.
Jesus, please. I know I don't want to wait
Because
that
they've
long.
barely started the script.
I don't
It
think it'll
takes a-
take that long.
4 years is like standard.
It's been 3 years since the last one.
It was
they
supposed to
were
be 2
already-
years.
Well, true. It was supposed to be 2, but
Part
COVID.
2, Electric Boogaloo.
But like that was 2 when it was already pretty much ready to go
Mhm.
immediately after the first one. Whereas this, they've like stopped and have to start it all up again.
Yeah. I need it now.
But
Yeah, I'll
With
live
that
with this
being
one for a
said-
while. This is
that concludes our breakdown of the individual parts. So with 5 out of 5 for every category, what do you think you'd give the movie?
2.
5 out of 5. This is like the definition of a perfect movie, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I
This
would-
is.
I would give
I'm
it
writing
5
my
out of 5.
letterbox review right now. This is 5 out of 5. This is one of the best movies I have seen in like forever. I'd say it's one of the top of the decade.
Oh, it's my second favorite of the
I
decade.
would put it with Oppenheimer.
Yeah, it's right behind that.
Just I can't say any more about
I
it that I haven't.
I
that
liked
hasn't
this
already been
way,
said.
way more than
I
Oppenheimer.
respect that. Yeah.
Oppenheimer was cool.
Yeah.
This is just another level. I am a sci-fi geek,
Yeah.
and
Really,
I am a
That's
screenwriter,
not very nice.
and this is an original. Like
This is
even though
this is original.
it's an
Yeah.
original story, like
Yeah.
Dune, the concept is an original
For sure.
story, whereas Oppenheimer is
Yeah,
like
yeah.
based on what a person did.
Yeah.
It's just so different and interesting, and I don't know, it just blows my mind.
It's incredible. It's the definition of why we go to the movies. It provides a truly epic experience. Like this film is so epic, but also so powerful. Like, and especially in the third act, like it's just so impressive how this film maintains its epicness and scope and scale, but being so dark and so powerful.
I
And saying so
remember
much.
watching the trailer and being so nervous because it looked like 3/4 of Dune Part 2 was just going to be like big CGI fights,
Mhm.
like the very final battle.
Yeah.
And I loved
That's
that
what it was
final
pegged
battle.
as, though. In that special
Preview we
feature in
saw.
the preview, they were pegging it as there's going to be a battle every 5 minutes,
Yeah.
and it's
And
going to be
I'm so
amazing.
glad
and
it
grand
wasn't.
jump.
Mhm.
Because like I was nervous about that. I was like, I think it'll, if they do that, it'll look fantastic and the acting will be fantastic. But where will the story be? Like, what will
Yeah.
it be? And I
Yeah.
think they went on the edge of the knife and just balanced it.
It's
so
it's perfect. Because when I think about this film, I'll certainly
Nailed it.
remember the cinematic experience, but what will stick out to me more so, and what I think will make this film be remembered, is its story and is its character moments and is it Paul's arc. And yeah, it's amazing. And I'm very, I think Denis has now, he was already like pretty much, hailed as one of the best directors of this generation, but this has solidified him. Like, it's just him and Nolan providing the best cinematic
Up there
experience.
with Michael Bay. I'm just kidding.
Him and Nolan are
him and
providing
Nolan right now.
best cinematic experiences you could have.
If they co-directed something, it would not work
Neither
at
of them
all.
would ever co-direct.
They would never co-direct. It wouldn't work at all. But I would watch that as many times as I could.
Seeing this in the theater will be something I remember for the rest of my life.
You better come back and review IMAX. Because There's-
I'm going to levitate. in
fun
the
fact
theater.
about the IMAX.
I'll be like the
about
Baron.
this in IMAX. There are only 12 70mm prints of Dune 2 in the world, and one of them is in Melbourne.
I'm gonna go and steal it. Heist time.
No, there's 70. There's not.
Yeah, I've watched all the Ocean's movies.
There's
They're good.
70 millimeter in Sydney, but it's not IMAX 70 millimeter. It's just regular 70 millimeter.
IMAX 70mm is slightly bigger,
Yeah, I'm seeing
but
it
it's
in
only
IMAX
because they
this
use
weekend,
imperial millimeters.
and I might go see it in 70 millimeter separately.
You should buy the 70mm.
I'm gonna see this movie so many times. Like, this is one of the best films we've gotten.
Are they handing out like frames of it?
You can win signed ones. But you have to win. You have to like
What?
enter into a raffle.
Okay. Well,
Can we get a 70mm printer, please? I'm just scanning them.
with that being said, I think that wraps up our discussion of Dune Part 2, which wraps up our episode today.
It's unbelievable. Go
Film
see it.
Society stuff.
Okay, there's some Film Society
There is
stuff
some
to
Film
talk
Society
about.
stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So I lied last week. Well, 4 days ago for
You
us.
were
but
you were telling the truth at
last
the
week,
time.
I was telling the truth at the time. But due to popular demand, the scene recreation comp, because of how it was rostered in with LCA, so people might not have got enough time to do both of them and prioritize one over the other, we've decided to extend the due date by a week. So yeah, it's due now on the 15th of March. So definitely get your submissions in. Send it to our email. You can find it on Discord, on Instagram. Send your recreation with the scene or shot that you're also referencing, and we will judge it. And again, there's awesome prizes. I don't know how much I can keep selling this. Jake, you gonna help me?
Now you've got it.
It's a great competition and it's a lot of fun.
It's
and
really
a
good.
opportunity to get some creative thinking and
Yeah.
filmmaking into you without having to make a whole film.
It's really fun going out there and creating.
And we might do another one before the end of the semester and put it into the screen. But yeah, we'll see.
But with that being said, thanks for joining us for this week of Off Camera. We'll see you next time.
See ya.